What is up, everybody? It's RC Maxfield here for the Back to 12 podcast. We are live on the channel right now. Looking forward to seeing how many of you guys get in here. Again, we're just going to have some fun. We're going to talk some Texas Tech sports, whether that's some hoops, whether that's football. Want to hear from you guys. If you haven't already, be sure to hit that subscribe button and hit that notification bell as well. And if you did, well, you're in here right now. But we're going to let it build up a little bit. I've got a question to ask y'all. Let the chat go a little bit here. What is your favorite or the best concert that you've ever been to? Let me know. Hopefully we get some people in here. I know it's a Friday night. I know how it goes, but we haven't done a live in a while, and I wanted to see how many people would hop in here and talk some hoops, and we'll do a football Q&A later on, but we'll talk about Texas Tech men's basketball. They've basically got their schedule now. It's just when are they going to play teams? We know the who and the where, just not the when quite yet. That'll come out later this year. But you got a little bit of a favorable schedule if you're Texas Tech, if I'm being fully transparent about it. But let me know when, hey, your favorite concert was, who it was for. Let me know in the comments as we try and build this up. If you haven't already, be sure to like the video as well. I think my favorite concert, I probably have two. But if you made me pick one, I'm probably going Post Malone on the beach. And I know there's going to be somebody that hates me for that. But DFW Zone, love Post Malone. Yeah, got to see him on the beach at Hangout Fest a couple years ago. So it was really cool to see him. But let me know your favorite concert and everything like that. Let's get the chat going, everything like that. Say hello. You'll get a shout out. We'll go from there. But let's jump into this. Again, Texas Tech, we know who they're playing in basketball right now. We know, again, the who and the where, just not the when. So down below, you can see the home games and the away games that Texas Tech is playing. And what I mean by that is we know that they will play at home against these five teams, and they will travel to them as well. So you've got the Baylors of the world. You've got TCU. You'll play Texas twice in the last year of the Big 12 for the Longhorns. You also got Oklahoma State, and a cool one, you get to go to UCF. That's actually pretty cool as well. So those are the five schools that you play both home and away on the schedule. Not too bad, honestly, when it comes down to it. The home games you play. So these teams will only travel to the 806. You won't travel to them. BYU, Cincinnati, Kansas, and Kansas State. I'll give my overall thoughts here at the very end. Once I finish up the schedule here in terms of the 18 games that Texas Tech will be playing in the Big 12. But that's favorable as hell right there. That's favorable as hell. You don't have to play Kansas in Lawrence, and you don't have to go to Little Apple in Manhattan and play Jerome Tang there, a place that historically you've had problems, right? Now the away games, you're strictly going there. Could be a lot worse, but also going to Houston, going to be a little difficult. Let's be real about it. You go to Iowa State names, Houston, Norman, and then you go to Morgantown, right? Overall, I mean, when you look at this, like, let's be real about it, right? Like, this is pretty favorable for Texas Tech in year one of Grant McCasland. Okay, you think about it. You don't have to go to Lawrence. You don't have to go to Manhattan, right? You get Texas at home in the last year. You get another basically home game when you go to Fort Worth. We know how the alumni show out there. Same thing down in Austin. All in all, right? Like, this worked out pretty damn well for Texas Tech men's basketball in year number one. Again, there could have been a lot worse of a turnout in terms of like the potential of what you would have to deal with. Also, it's pretty cool you get to go to Florida, right? Like, that's awesome from a recruiting standpoint and showing kids, hey, we get to play in Florida. That's a big deal, right? So I think that there's something to be said there. But again, you get Baylor at home. That's big. You also get Texas at home, TCU, Kansas, Kansas State. An underrated team at home is Cincinnati. I talked about that in yesterday's video. Like, Cincinnati is going to be a solid team with Miller as their head coach. They brought in a couple of top 40 guys, had a really good transfer portal class as well. But all in all, that's a favorable schedule for Texas Tech, if you ask me. Let me know in the comments, though, what y'all think. Again, these are your home games right here. I'm about to put the away games up as well. But, like, let me know what y'all think of this, because when I first saw it, and we can go over some of the teams that kind of maybe got screwed a little bit, I thought Texas Tech had a lot of favors for them, and got a very favorable schedule for year number one of Grant McCasland. A lot of things could have gone different ways, and you wanted to see kind of what they were going to do here. It seems like they put a point of emphasis for Baylor, obviously with the Grant McCasland ties. Probably was going to happen, right? And then obviously the Oklahoma State aspect of it. Feels like they're going to try and make that a big rivalry for the Big 12, even though I guess they didn't do that really for football, so maybe negate that. Who knows? But some of the schools that kind of stand out to me as I put the away games down there for you guys, some of the ones that are really interesting, okay? So you look at it. I thought Houston, good for them. They have to go to Kansas, but they got UCF, Cincinnati, Iowa State, Kansas, and Texas at home. Also Kansas State, Oklahoma State, Texas Tech, West Virginia. But they do have to play away at Baylor. They have to play at BYU, Oklahoma, and TCU. I didn't think that was too bad, to be completely honest with you. Now, Kansas State, excuse me. Damn, they got. I'd be okay if I was upset a little bit. You know, if you hear a Kansas State fan being a little upset, they're away only games, right? Cincinnati, toughest place to play. Houston, we know what they're capable of. Texas and Texas Tech. You're talking about four teams that are probably going to finish, if not in the top half of the Big 12, they're at least going to finish probably in the top 9, right? That's difficult right there. Looking at other ones, again, TCU, no favors for them. They have Kansas on the road, Kansas State on the road as well, Oklahoma State, and then they got to go to Provo, right? It's really interesting to see how these away-only games were divvied up in this. Another school that I find like, hey, they probably got away with, you know, how hard this is going to be is UCF in year number one. You know, in terms of their away-only games, like now that I look at it, yeah, they got kind of jibbed too. Kansas State, Oklahoma State, TCU, Texas. Yeah, that's pretty rough. Let me know how y'all are doing, though. Like the video. Let me know in the chat. I'm going to put something in the chat here, you know, in terms of, hey, like the video. Get those questions started in terms of the Q&A. We're going to have a football Q&A here at the very end. So let me know your questions. Drop them at any time. I'll give you guys a shout out. So, yeah, let me know. It would help if I could spell. All right. Let me give a couple shout outs here. We got T Ferg 806 in here as well. We got Greg. We've got John. We've got Fernando as well. Fernando asked, any news on the non-con? Yeah, well, the Vanderbilt one came out. You're going to play them at Dickies Arena in Fort Worth. And again, talking to the staff, that was a big point of emphasis, right? Like that was a big point of emphasis, talking to them and also hearing from them from other media sites in terms of like, hey, Grant McCasland wanted another game in DFW. He knows the importance of this area for Texas Tech in terms of the alumni base, right? So he wanted another game there. And it kind of replaces, if you look at it, the SEC Big 12 game that they would have had. They probably would have got a team like Vandy anyway. So this works out well for them, right? Another non-con game is obviously the Big East Big 12 matchup. You play Butler, you go up to Indianapolis for that. And then I think other people forget, and I've mentioned this a couple of times, they're going down to, I forget if it's Atlantis or where it is, but they're going down to one of those preseason tournaments this year. They took over for another school in the Big 12, and that tournament will have the likes of North Carolina, Michigan, Northern Iowa, other big-time programs. I believe Villanova's in there as well. So, again, Texas Tech is going to schedule those games that are like the northwestern states of the world, right? They're going to do that. That's just how it's going to be. They're still going to have those games on the schedule because it just makes financial sense. Obviously, Oral Roberts coming in too. They talked about that game. They announced that one. I believe they're paying them $75K to come in. But I think this is going to be one of the better non-con schedules for Texas Tech. And to be honest with you, it's kind of surprising in terms of year number one of Grant McCaslin. You thought maybe, okay, not take it easy, for example, or anything like that. But it's one of those deals where maybe you wanted to, work through a little bit easier of a schedule to start. But no, Grant McCaslin, they're going to be thrown into the fire pretty much right away. So again, you've got Vandy in the non-con. That'll be in Fort Worth. Then you go to Indianapolis to play Butler up at Finkel. And then you're going to go to Atlantis. And yeah, you're going to play there. Shout out to John for helping me out on that one. I forgot exactly which one it was. But yeah, you're going to be playing in that. And so that's another big deal where you're looking at in terms of Power 6 programs, right? Like from a standpoint in your non-con schedule, you're at least playing 5 of them because you're going to play 3 games down in Atlantis and then you get those other 2. That's a lot more than Texas Tech has typically played in the past. So really cool stuff there for sure. Appreciate the question, Fernando. This from David, off topic, but do you know how much the Tech football facilities upgrade, how much it was? Do I know much about? Sorry. Go. Are we going to have a recruiting area where all the recruits stay? Yeah, they already have that set up. They're just going to kind of transfer it. They kind of have a couple of areas already for that. If you notice some of those cool photos they're doing with, I don't think they're lightsabers, but I think y'all know what I'm talking about. Yeah, so they already have one of those set up, and there will be another area in there too. Another cool area, I'm sure y'all seen the pictures of it, is kind of like this big screen. And then there's, I believe, 20 yards, maybe 30 yards, where you can do walkthroughs and everything. And you can simulate things on that screen so you can get live action shots, right? So that's going to be cool. And I bet you they do a lot of the stuff in there with that screen behind them and get some cool action shots for recruits there, David. So they've got multiple areas to do it. I promise you they're going to do it out on the field to make sure they capitalize on letting everybody know about all the upgrades as well. But those upgrades won't be done until next year. So I'm sure y'all know that, 2024. Also, let me know this too. Should they level the bevel? Or y'all on level the bevel, or are y'all on another side of this? Like, do you like the current Texas Tech logo, or do you want the older Texas Tech logo? Let me know. I'm on a certain side, but I kind of want to hear y'all's opinion as well. Lawrence, what is up, my guy? Appreciate you tuning in on a Friday. David, he also says other schools have one, and I think it's something that recruits really love, having cool pics, videos from them, posts. Yeah, no, they're going to have one. They're going to have one, and they kind of already do. They makeshift it right now because they're in that weird, transition period in terms of buildings and everything, right? Like they obviously can't stay on that side where the offices were, so they have to move somewhere else and everything like that in terms of football operations day to day, and even really the athletic department in general. I believe they're on the, excuse my sense of direction, they're on the university side in terms of the street, where that's where the offices are for the athletic department now. They had to move. So that's that. John says the Atlantis field will be bigger than Maui last year, loaded field. Yeah, there's quite a bit of talent in there, no doubt about it. And again, let me know, like the video, subscribe if you haven't already, but I really want to hear from you guys in the chat. Appreciate Fernando letting me know. What is the best / your favorite concert you've ever been to? Fernando says a local Dallas band that's been around for a while but are always fun. Emerald City Band. Never heard of them. Might have to check them out. Again, mine was Post Malone. But yeah, I mean, I'm pretty basic when it comes to music, if I'm being fully transparent about it. Going to talk about TBT here in just a minute, but hey, like the video if you haven't already. We're trying to share it as well. Go like it over on YouTube. But yeah, I mean, doing a lot of good stuff here. All right, old Texas Tech man, Oklahoma in the house, Reckham Tech, Maureen Horn fan. Yeah, nope, yep, he's a good one. I don't know if he's going to make the 2 deep right now, is Horn, but I think he's going to be a solid player on the special team side of it for Texas Tech. So again, be sure to like the video, share it if you haven't already. Really appreciate it if y'all share it. Definitely means a lot on that front. But yeah, let's get this party going a little bit. Let's see what John says here. Best concert, Red Hot Chili Peppers. Where'd you see him though? You guys got to let me know that. Like, did you see him out in Vegas or something, let me know. But while we do that, I'm going to transition while those answers trickle in. And by the way, send in some football questions. We're going to talk about football. Um, might have a hot take or two about Tyler Shuck coming up this year for him. So let me know some football questions as well. But TBT, how about it was a lot of fun, and they get to play tonight at 8 p.m. back at the USA. And it's kind of crazy. Um, Kind of the fear. And again, I'm in a weird place, I understand that, where it's like, I'm on the media side of things, but also I'm an alumni of Texas Tech. I mean, it's right there, right? Like, I went to Texas Tech just like a lot of y'all, so there's a lot of feelings with that, and I, like, try and, navigate it the best I can, in terms of not being biased, and I think I do a good job, but I'll be honest with you, I was 100% biased watching this TBT team. All of the feels came back. Just seeing these guys, and again, I was out at Texas Tech from 2014 to 2019, graduated with a sport management PR degree, did a lot in terms of the media at the student radio station, and got to meet some of these guys, got to know them a little bit, put them at the rec. Todrick Gocher, super good guy. Talked to him here on the channel if you haven't listened to that interview. Really great dude, one of the best people, legitimately, not even in athletics that I've met, just in general, just a really good guy. Um, but I had all the feels, man. I had all of the feels watching that game, just from the standpoint of, I believe it was 9 generations, and when I say 9 generations, I mean 9 different head coaches, represented by, at least one player, right? And it was just crazy to watch. I mean, it was a blowout, there's no doubt about that, but I'm almost happy it was, from the standpoint of we got to see everybody play, and, seeing Davide back. You gotta remember, he left right when COVID happened to be close to his family, start his professional career in Italy. Back, and he played in this. The crazy one is John Roberson, right? Like, the oldest guy out there, 34 years old, um, hadn't been back to Lubbock in 13 years. Comes back, balls out, the veteran of the crew, for the Air Raiders, and it was just a lot of fun to watch, man. I mean, I I'll be honest with you. I probably would not be watching the TBT or as invested as I am in it if it wasn't in Lubbock, right? Like, I think the Lubbock storyline and having all of these notable Texas Tech men's basketball alumni come back, um, it just hits you in a place that I really didn't expect to be hit in terms of the feels. But you listen to Andrew Swirl, Swirls, you listen to Parker Hicks talk, you listen to all these guys, and like Texas Tech was trying to make 2 teams in the TBT. They almost did it. Instead, they made a super team. That's how many guys wanted to play for the Texas Tech TBT team. Was they almost made 2 teams instead? Obviously, like I just said, a super team, which is super cool. Seeing these guys get to play together, I forgot how much I missed a Matt Mooney, Tariq Owen alley-oop. Um, Cool to see Kyler back as well. Um, just so many nostalgic feels when it came down to it, and really getting to see some of these guys that we just haven't gotten to see in a long time. And it's cool to know, mostly from the standpoint of where this program is going, that the alumni in the program are so invested, right? Like, that's something that I think cannot go understated. Especially it's a new head coach, right? Like, I wouldn't blame the guys if they didn't want to come back, just from the standpoint of, hey, it's a new coach. He wasn't my coach when I was here. Like, hey, it goes back to that old adage. Hey, most of the time, guys commit to coaches, they don't commit to school. But I think it's a testament to the foundation and the family and the brotherhood that Texas Tech men's basketball has established really over these past, I guess it's been 7, 8 years of pretty damn sustained greatness when it's all relative in terms of what they've done in the past. And you think about the guys that are there that aren't playing. You got the Zaire Smiths of the world. You got the Jarrett Culvers, the Keenan Allens. Obviously, Lawrence Odiase's there. You got a Don Arms, who I saw in Vegas, which is pretty cool, right? Like, there's so much community. And by the way, I left out probably about another 10, 12 players that are there. It's just really cool to see that, and I think it can't go understated what that means for Texas Tech from the foundation that Grant McCasland is trying to build, for this program long term, but also what it means for these guys currently on the roster. Seeing guys that play professional basketball It doesn't matter if it's in the NBA, G League, or overseas. Listen, if you're getting paid to play basketball at a professional level, that's what those guys want to do that are on the current team for Texas Tech. Yeah, obviously the NBA is the main goal. But when it comes down to it, like if you get paid to play basketball and you get paid pretty damn well to do it and you're living overseas, that's a goal right there, and those guys have it, and now they're seeing guys come back that are doing that. You know, the Todrick Gochers of the world, the Davide Moretti's. Like, there's so much impactful knowledge that those guys can drop on them, and not to mention you got guys like Matt Mooney, Tariq Owens, Adonis Arms, Jarrett Culver, Zaire Smith as well, all trying to make NBA rosters, and a couple of them probably will. Right? So it's really cool to see guys back representing the university at a high level. And I mean, I can't wait to see how many people show up to the USA tonight. Tip off here in about what, hour and 40 minutes. If you haven't already, be sure to like the video here. Um, Join the membership too. I know there's a couple people in here. Shout out to John that have already members. Get priority on your comments being answered. Helps a lot in terms of just the support and everything. And I truly appreciate y'all guys tuning in. And believe we just hit 8,150 subscribers, which is kind of nuts. Really appreciate each and every one of you guys and girls that have subscribed. Um, this from old Texas Tech man. RC, writer for the Athletic, says Big 12 is in turmoil because Oklahoma and Texas are leaving. He's saying Big 12 teams won't be able to recruit. I think it's pretty easy to look and say that's false. Now, could it change long term? Sure. But right now, that's unequivocally false. Texas Tech is recruiting at a high level. Oklahoma State, they had a solid transfer portal class. Kansas State's doing a good job. Like, I get it. And I think Paul Feinbaum had something too, and we can navigate here. He had a comment where basically Ames, Iowa is like a kindergarten class or something like that. Compared to some of these SEC. And I want to preface what I'm about to say is like this is not a shot at the Big 12, but like, yeah, no shit. The Big 12 has arenas and stadiums that um, they have like what, 60,000? Texas, I think, is the biggest one. Oklahoma may be up there too. It's like, yeah, no crap. They sit 100,000 people in the SEC. Like, we know this, but crapping on the Big 12 in terms of the product. Listen, the Big 12 product ain't going to change too much, right? Like, the Big 12 is still going to be a very, very competitive league. It's still probably not going to be the SEC or the Big Ten long term, unless they go and add schools like Colorado, Arizona State, Arizona, Utah, maybe even Washington and Oregon, right? Like, they're going to have to get bigger just because, again, the SEC and Big Ten have more schools. Like, there's something to that, right? But overall, I mean, the Big 12 is going to be perfectly fine. So it's still going to be a really good conference. It's going to be the third best conference in America when it comes to football, and it's going to be the best conference in America when it comes to men's basketball. So that's a pretty good place to be in, especially in the craziness that is college athletics right now. This from John. He's answering old Texas Tech, man. We will recruit the right guys. 5 stars, just a number. I want the kids that are hungry. Yeah, I mean, but here's the thing, like, Texas Tech is going to get a 5 relatively soon. Is that Micah Hudson? Possibly, but, like, it's gonna happen. And the thing is this, Texas Tech is in a position where obviously things have to go the right way. If you ask me right now who the answer to this question is that I'm about to present is, it's probably Kansas State. Um, but, like, Texas Tech is in a really good position to potentially be the best team in the Big 12. Like, in terms of, like, recruiting and at a high level of play, right? Like, that's just my opinion on it. But hey, maybe I'm crazy. Fernando, appreciate the question. We'll answer that later on about Dalton Merriman. Loving the TBT era Raiders, watching them tonight. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. Again, I get in the great scheme of things, like, some people aren't going to like that brand of basketball and everything, but damn, nostalgia is so freaking real when it comes to what's going on. um, with Texas Tech and the TBT and everything like that. So again, if you haven't already, like the video, share it over on Twitter. If you go over on Twitter and you retweet what I just tweeted in terms of me going live and everything like that, I'll give you a shout out on here. How about that? As I look over there real quick. But here we go. We'll start talking about football a little bit. We'll probably have this live until about 6:45. So keep those football questions coming in, basketball as well. I'll answer to the best of my ability. Maybe talk about that secret scrimmage that the Air Raiders had against the current Texas Tech men's basketball team. But yeah, we'll talk about that if y'all want to. Just let me know in the comments and everything like that. This from John. People think the Big 12 will turn into the 8 American or the Mountain West. We are still a strong number 3 and not going anywhere. Looking at you, Pac-12. Yeah, let me go on a rant real quick. Thank you for mentioning the Pac-12, John. And hold on, let me get a drink real fast. Not a sponsor, but God, these are good. The Pac-12 commissioner in his comments today were some of the dumbest I've ever heard. We want to focus on football. That's why we're not talking about a media rights deal. You're not fooling anybody anymore, bro. Like you're not. You're just not, right? If you had a media deal, you would put that shit out there right away to make sure other schools don't leave your conference. It's that simple. This is common sense. You're not fooling anybody. Okay. Do they get a media rights deal? I mean, odds on are probably yes. Is it going to be shit? Yeah. It's not going to be a good deal. It's not going to be near the Big 12. It's obviously not going to be near the Big 10 and the SEC, right? Like the Big 12 is going to have the third best media rights deal there is. Simple and plain, right? The Pac 12 is not going to be close to it because let's face it, let's look at this objectively from the Pac 12 standpoint and what they offer as it stands right now with the 10 teams they have, with UCLA leaving and obviously USC as well. Objectively, right? Outside of Washington and Oregon, who gets eyeballs? Who? Like, I would love to hear it in the chat. Who gets eyeballs in the Pac 12 outside of Oregon and Washington on a national level? You think somebody on the East Coast is going to watch Utah football unless they're playing like Miami or Florida like they did last year? No, they're not doing that. Arizona gets some eyeballs because they're a good basketball program. I'll give them that. No, the Pac-12 is going to get a few more eyeballs because they want to see how this experiment with Coach Prime works out. I'll give them that as well, right? But in its totality, in the long-term projection view, as it stands right now, there are only 2 schools really worth a damn in the Pac-12. I don't think that's being like dishonest or anything. I think it's just real. Like that's just how it is. And I think at this point, it's like, dude, we get it. You don't have a deal. You're just prolonging it. And he also had the comment today that none of the 10 schools are leaving. Well, yeah, you're dragging your feet on a media deal. They want to see what that media rights deal is. And once they see it's crap, they're going to bounce. This is just common sense type stuff. Like, it's not hard to understand. So, John, I appreciate you bringing up the Pac-12, but damn it, I am so tired of hearing from their commissioner and all the bull crap that he's spewing right now. Maybe I look stupid. Somebody record this and let me know if I look stupid, but that's just kind of how I feel about it right now. Let's see here. We can start the football Q&A. Let's go ahead and do this. Kansas State head coach talked about his 2-star running backs he's going to start this season with. Yeah, so you lose Deuce Vaughn, obviously. You got a guy coming back who was the backup to Deuce Vaughn. Didn't see much playing time. And then you get the transfer from Florida State. I forget his name right now. But I know at Florida State, he was a guy that was kind of shifty. He's a shifty kind of guy, and the other guy's a bruiser. They don't have a do-it-all kind of back like Deuce Vaughn, who, maybe 5'5" on a good day, but he could do it all, right? Like, that's not the case anymore. It's going to be a committee right there for Kansas State. And I'll be honest with you, Fernando, we haven't published the video yet, Lyle and I, but we're going to talk about it here in probably when August starts. We're going to give our predictions for the Big 12. And I've got Kansas State winning the Big 12. So that's kind of how I feel about it right now. Um, this from David. True or false, Tech plays in the Big 12 football championship? We'll start with this. We'll run through all the questions and then go by one, David. Um, Tech plays in the Big 12 football championship game. Chuck gets drafted. We finished with more sacks than last year. Bradley goes over 1,000 yards. We finished top 20 in recruiting in 2025. All right, let's start with the ones that I think just happen outright. Tyler Shuck gets drafted. He will get drafted. It'll be interesting to see where. But to be honest with you, Tyler Shuck kind of reminds me of a Hendon Hooker in terms of where he could go in the draft. Like Hendon Hooker really only had one, maybe two good years at Tennessee. If Shuck has a good year this year, you look at it. Let's just say Tech goes 9-3 or 8-4, whichever one you want, right? Either way, Tyler Shuck is going to have 16 wins to either 5 losses or 4 losses as the starting quarterback for Texas Tech in the games he start and finish. Okay? He's a winner, simple and plain. He's one of the smartest quarterbacks in the country, not just in the Big 12. And truthfully, if he has a good year, you could see him being talked about as the number one quarterback in the Big 12. So, yes, I think he gets drafted. I also think Bradley, that's close on the yards, but I don't think over. I think he probably gets in that 1,100 range, slightly over. I think he has 2-3 big games where he just kind of pops off, and that allows him to get over. Texas Tech, will they finish in the top 20 recruiting in 2025? I'm going to say no, but I think it's close. I think probably top 25 is probably the most likely outcome. Now, will Tech finish with more sacks this year than last year? This might be spicy. And I know Joey McGuire was getting a lot of flack for it at Big 12 Media Days, but this room that is it's currently constructed right now when it comes to edge rushers, DNs, and outside linebackers, right? It's better than last year's. Like, I get it. Tyree Wilson was in the other one, but from a depth standpoint, like 1 to 8, I don't know if it's particularly close. You have like 6, 7 guys that you can put out on the edge and feel comfortable with them getting to the quarterback, right? And some of them you're going to play at linebacker. And Josiah Pierre, Isaac Smith, you can get to the quarterback. He proved that in the bowl game, right? He's going to have a big impact on this team. Obviously, Steve Linton, Miles Cole, Joseph Adedire. You've got other guys, Isaiah Crawford, who maybe get redshirted this year, but he's a 4-star defensive end edge guy out of Post, one of the highest recruits in Texas Tech program history, right? Like maybe he plays a little bit this year. You've got Burris on the inside there. We haven't even talked about Jalen Hutchins on the inside of the defensive line. It's proven he can get to the quarterback, right? Tony Bradford. Yeah, I think they have more sacks this year. I know that was a long-winded way of answering that question, David. And then true or false. So we've got true for Shuck gets drafted, true more sacks this year, true for Bradley, and then false for the 2025 recruiting. The last one, Tech plays in the Big 12 football championship game. I'm not going to give you a true or false on that one, but I will say this, and I've stood by it since I've seen the schedule. The winner of the last game of the year between Texas and Texas Tech is playing in the Big 12 title game. That is for a spot in Arlington the next weekend. I truly believe that. I think that both of those teams go in there. If I had to, bet on what actually happens, I think it's probably Texas goes in there, maybe 9-2, 8-3. Texas Tech goes in there 8-3, 9-2, and the winner of that game, they play whoever else is there, right? And I probably think it's Kansas State. But that's kind of where I'm at right now in terms of how things are, in terms of my way of thinking, and everything like that. I know that's not a true or false answer you're looking for right there, but that's kind of how I feel about it when it's all said and done. Once again, if you haven't already, be sure to like the video, put your questions in there. Let me know. Let me know your questions real quick in terms of football and everything. Going to stay here about 6:45. Appreciate everybody spending part of their Friday night with me. Really does mean a lot. But let's jump into some more questions real quick. This from Sam Hurley. What role is Dre McCray going to have? We play in the same position as Price. Really good question. Appreciate you tuning in, Sam. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they use those guys because I think they're going to play the same position, but don't be surprised if they're on the field at the same time quite often, right? And the reason being is this: don't be surprised if there's times this year where Texas Tech doesn't have a tight end on the field as much because this is gonna sound crazy, guys, but I think Texas Tech is gonna have a much improved offensive line. Um, so you don't need that extra tight end on there. Now, you're going to use your tight ends. Don't hear what I'm not saying, but I think you're going to see some more four wide receiver sets with the running back in the backfield, whether that's Taj, Valdez, Donnell, whoever it is, right? Like you're going to see that. And I think you're going to see a combination out there potentially of on one side, you've got Bradley and McCray because Bradley's more of that physical wide receiver, tall, lengthy, can go up and get it. And then McCray is the guy that can take the top off the defense. You think about it from the other side, you have Price and Loic Fungee potentially on the field. Loic, home run hitter, right? He's physical, he can beat you on the sideline, and then Miles Price is almost that kind of security blanket for you right there in the middle of the field, runs good routes, got sure hands. That's probably what they're going to do, right? And having a better offensive line frees you up for that. So I think that that's probably what you're going to see from Dre McCray. They'll probably play similar positions, Miles Price and him, but overall, I think they're going to be used drastically different. And I think Dre McCray is really going to help guys out. The guys that he's going to help out most, if they stay healthy, is Bradley and Fungi because he can absolutely take the top off of the defense, and that's going to open a lot of little area in the field open for guys like Bradley and Loic that can just absolutely out physical somebody, especially a smaller corner in the middle of the field. And it's also going to open up windows for Tyler Shuck, simple and plain, and the running game as well. So, yeah, I think that that's probably what happens on the Dre McCray front. This from John. I don't think it touches the ACC's CW deal. Pac-12 is a shit show. Leadership. Is PGA dysfunctional. I don't want to put that evil on anybody. That might be too far. I think they'll probably get a little bit more than the CW deal, but not much, not much at all. Um, let's see. Any idea when Micah Hudson will announce? I'll say this, man. Like, I don't think there's a firm date. Nobody does. But don't be surprised if this goes on to like signing day, right? Like, I think with Micah, it's one of those things where, truthfully, I almost think he does have his mind made up. First, and secondly, he's just a world class troll. That's fantastic. He does a great job. Um, but from the Micah standpoint and everything that I know, and again, I'm going to tell you guys what I know and not anything more. It feels like he's almost made a decision in terms of like, okay, I'm going to do this, but he will take that Texas visit, it sounds like, before his season starts or during his season. He lives right down there. But when it comes down to it, everything that I've been told from people close to the situation is it is still Texas and it is still Texas Tech. Now, A&M is making a hard push to go and get him. They're throwing dollars at him. He took that unofficial the weekend that he was supposed to go to Texas, and he went to go play 7-on-7. But yeah, no, Texas Tech still has a really good chance to land Micah Hudson. Will it happen for sure? I don't know. But I do think that Texas Tech is in a very, very good spot. And the coaches continue to make it a point of emphasis that he is a high priority. And also this, I'm not sure how many more recruits are added to this class, if I'm being honest. I think it's probably Michael Hudson and maybe one other one if that happens, right? Because again, it's going to be a smaller class for Texas Tech. Already about 17, I believe, right now. I don't think they can go above 20 just because of the scholarship limits and everything like that. So, yeah, I think that's kind of where it stands right now. John, sorry, answer the question, man. Answer the question. My bad. I didn't jinx anything. I can't jinx anything. I'm not the kid. I'm just going to tell you what I know. This from Gray. Tech D-line pressure will be more across the board. Wilson was great, but lots of times couldn't quite get to the quarterback. But Tech has more multiple players bringing the pressure this year. Yeah, that's the thing. Here's the thing. There's no debating that Tyree Wilson is one of the greatest defenders that has ever played at Texas Tech. There's no debating that, right? The thing is last year, Texas Tech did not have as much depth in the edge and the outside linebacker, right? Department. You lose a guy like Tyree, obviously a generational type talent and everything like that. Um, but you are much deeper, again, as I mentioned, and now you can't double team guys. Last year, Tyree was getting double teamed quite a bit, and it was opening up opportunities for the Jalen Hutchings, Bradfords, Josiah Pierre, Adatorays, Miles Cole, and everything like that. Now you can't double team. You got to respect everybody. It's going to be one on one, and one on ones as a pass rusher, that's their dream right there, right? And so I think that that's something that's huge, and obviously the double team obviously impacted other guys, but the thing is the talent drop off was significant this year. There's obviously a talent drop off from Tyree Wilson to whoever you have as the best pass rusher this year for Texas Tech. Probably Steve Linton, Miles Cole, if we're being honest. But the drop off from Steve Linton to Joseph Adatoray or Isaac Smith, right, is less drastic as it was last year, which will allow Texas Tech to get more one-on-one opportunities because you can't beat somebody, right? And if you do, good luck. You're gonna get beat. It's that simple. This from Fernando. Open up windows for tight ends and running backs out of the backfield for sure. RC putting pressure on you. Name your starting 11. All right, so I'll do both. Right now, as it stands for me, I'm trying to think real quick, pulling up the roster right now just to make sure that I've got it and everything like that. Um, I believe let's start with offense. We'll go offense here. Obviously, Tyler Shuck, number one, at the quarterback position. Taj Brooks will be the starting running back. We know that. I'm also really excited about Cameron Valdez. Um, then we'll go to the offensive line. We'll go from left to right. Monroe Mills at left tackle. Then you've got Cole Spencer at left guard, Rusty Stats at center, Dennis Wilburn at right guard. Then you got Caleb Rogers at right tackle. Okay, so it depends if you want to play four wide receivers or if you want to play with a tight end. We'll just do a tight end for right now. Um, it's probably going to go in terms of starters, doesn't mean they're going to play the most snaps. Bradley will be out there, Dre McCray, and then Miles Price. Those will probably be your three starting wide receivers, but Loic Fungi will also get a ton of run as well as JJ Sparkman and Xavier White. They're loaded at the wide receiver position this year. Our Raiders didn't even mention Nehemiah. I didn't even mention him. So that's probably that. And then at tight end, you're going to have Baylor Cup. On the defensive side, you're probably going to go Miles Cole, Tony Bradford, Jalen Hutchings, Steve Linton, Josiah Pierre will be your Mike linebacker. At the star position, you're going to have CJ Baskerville back up for a second, the other linebacker. I'm not sure who that'll be. That's going to be probably the most interesting battle in camp. It'll be between, I believe it'll be Jacob Rodriguez and then also Isaac Smith with Ty Canna in there as well, in my opinion. So it's going to be interesting to see how those guys go through that. But then again, I mentioned it, star CJ Baskerville, if he's healthy, Rashad Williams will be on the one side. Then you'll also have Malik Dunlap on the other. Then you'll have Rabbit out there as well. And then at the back safety spot, you'll have Tyler Owens. And then from the kicker standpoint, McNamara will be the punter. And then Garcia will likely be the kicker for Texas Tech. So that's your starting 22. And again, 18 of those guys started the bowl game last year for Texas Tech. So quite a bit of experience coming back for the Red Raiders in that regard. So I'm pretty excited to see what they do on that front. Let's see. Anybody but me getting tired of Micah Hudson self-promotion drama? Nah, man. I mean, I get it. But for me, this is really what it comes down to for me. Everybody's different. And in the world of NIL, you don't got to like it. But self-promotion is necessary if you want to get a bag, right? Like, and I get it's exhausting sometimes. Some people aren't going to like it, but as a football player, in the position that Mike is in, you got to capitalize and get as much money as you can because, God forbid something happens and you don't get to play football again, in terms of, an injury or something like that. So, I'm all for it. Again, it's taxing. I understand a lot of people don't like NIL and everything like that, but it is what it is. I can understand it. This from John. Mike is a luxury piece. He'd be nice to have, but at the end of the day, he's a slot wide receiver. those can be found and developed in the portal. Listen, I I'll tell you this right now. I said it with Lyle. I don't know if we were recording or not, but I flat out told Lyle, I was like, "If Micah Hudson comes to Texas Tech, he's an automatic 1,000-yard receiver from the jump. It doesn't matter what quarterback you got. If it's Barron, um, I mean, it doesn't matter. Hammond, King, it really doesn't matter, in my opinion, and he'd be a perfect complement to any other wide receiver, for the Red Raiders in the offense, so it would be absolutely phenomenal. Got time for a couple more questions if anybody has it. Again, like the video if you haven't already. Gonna start trying to do a little bit more. Let me know what you think of the graph and everything like that. I know, it's an interesting time in terms of going live and everything like that, especially on Friday. Completely understand. He wanted to talk a little bit of, tech hoops and everything like that, and if you haven't already, go listen to that Todrick Goats interview. Um, he's insightful as hell, and, I have a little bit more of a breakdown as well in terms of the schedule for Texas Tech in the video from yesterday. So be sure to check that out. Yes, his dad, Micah Hudson's dad, did go to Texas Tech. He actually played defensive tackle in the late 80s and early 90s. All right. I'm going to wrap it up there. Short and sweet live tonight. Appreciate everybody that is tuned in. If you haven't already, be sure to hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you know when we're going live. We're trying to get to 10K by the end of football season. I think we can do it. I think we can do it. Y'all have been absolutely awesome. We appreciate everything y'all done for this channel and tuning in and day out. Really does mean a lot. I am RC Maxfield reminding you if you want the latest Texas Tech football and men's basketball news and rumors all year long, join the fastest growing Texas Tech YouTube channel right here on the Back to 12 podcast channel.